Okay, so we're back to do another Fireside Talk with Chris.
Hello.
This time in the sun, nice spring sunshine, and we're going to do a talk on being a parent carer. So, straight off the bat, as I like to do, how have you experienced being a parent carer, maybe from the start?
Yeah, do you know what? It's my story is probably quite different to a lot of carers. So I'm the dad of a wonderfully autistic lad. He's amazing. When a lot of people, they really have to fight to get a diagnosis and things like that. For us, it was the other way around. It was actually the school and the nursery that they were in were sort of pushing for us to have a diagnosis. He was our first child, so we didn't really have, we'd never been through that process before, through that journey. And they would say, we need to have him assessed, things aren't right. And actually at home, we were like, he's fine. It's actually, it must be the school can't cope with him, or, and actually we kind of went through the process kicking and screaming, to be honest. And I'm so glad that I had a very frank conversation with a consultant. And I like a lot of people, I don't want the fear of him being labelled. And actually he said he's going to get labelled anyway. He said, do you want to let him labelled as odd, naughty, disruptive, autistic? He said, but actually having him labelled with autistic means that he can support. And that was kind of my entry into the journey of being a parent carer. So it was a little bit like being fired out of a cannon, to be honest with you. So yeah, that was how it came about. And obviously now speaking to a lot of other parents who have been fighting for years and years to get a diagnosis, it's quite a different story.
So in the early years then, after diagnosis and things, how did you find it going out? Were you looking for support groups and things to access, or was it that you your son, wife kept it quite sort of, what's the word? Insular.
Yeah.
Did you keep it to yourself? Did you go out looking for support groups? Things to do?
Well, I mean, we had to really. I didn't even. This was quite a long time ago. Before I went on, before I was a carer, before I did the work that I did, I didn't really know much about autism and ASD. And actually, when he was diagnosed, it was basically, congratulations, he's diagnosed, here's a leaflet. And it was, so yeah, we had to we didn't want to fall into that trap of obsessing over the internet about, what it is and what it isn't. I mean, at the end of the day, he was and still is an epic guy, but we were like, actually, do you know what, this is, we need support. And I think for me, one of the things that made that really obvious is when we kind of found out the stats for sort of marital breakdown and stuff like that within parent carers is staggeringly high. And we said actually what we need to do is to try and get support to allow us to keep doing the things that we're doing. So we found a couple of really great local organisations, so New Kiss and Daffodils in Flintshire, two organisations that do fantastic work with parent carers. And actually we started to meet with other people in the same situation, which actually just in itself was a real sense check for us, and just being in an environment where you didn't have to apologise anymore, and that sounds really bad, but you can always tell when we go to these groups, you can always tell who the new mums and dads are, because they basically just follow their child around apologising constantly, and we're like, it doesn't matter, you'll probably be our kid in the next hour or so.
That's,
it's just a safe place.
We talk a lot about community, isn't it?
Yeah,
finding that community.
Yeah, and actually, things like that really sort of stick out to me. We wanted to take him to a pantomime. Now he doesn't like dark spaces. He doesn't like loud noises. You know, he doesn't like bright lights at the time. He's much better now. But those were challenges for him. But he wanted to go. So being able to go in a supportive environment was great. I mean, the first time we went, it lasted all of like 12 minutes. Okay, and I think even Captain Hook on stage thought that somebody was being abducted or murdered or something like that in the stage. You know, it was well, he wanted to go the next, and it would have been really easy, I think, if I wasn't in that support group, to have said, right, well, that's it, we've gone, we've tried it, we're not doing that again. But actually being able to talk to people afterwards and said, oh, you know, we were in that apology mode. You know, I feel a bit embarrassed, you know, or you know, and them say, oh no, come back next year. Next year we got to the interval, and then a bit further and a bit further, and now he still goes down, and you know, and it's great because now he gets a lot of the rude jokes that go over people's heads now.
So, in terms of through diagnosis and growing up and learning about yourself, how did coming outdoors and help, or was there any link to that, or was nature supportive with you? Because obviously you were going through your journey of this wilderness stuff and getting outdoors more. Did that help with that?
Do you know what? Actually, the reason I work outdoors now is actually due to Patrick. And I could do a whole different talk on that. But basically, it started with me kind of seeing my arse with the school. To be honest, they had a forest school. He's moved to a really good school now, but the school he was at, they had a forest school. He was really excited to go, but basically they said he wouldn't go in case he escaped. So they allowed him to sit and watch, which I did what all parent carers would do and sent a really snotty letter to the school about it, as you do.
That comes back to the consultant labels at the start, doesn't it? Where, you know, so that autistic diagnosis in that situation didn't help him, did it?
No.
You know, it could have been any of those labels, like you said.
And actually, I said, right, I'll take it. You know, and I took him into the woods, and I lost sight of him for a few seconds. I thought, oh dear, the school was right. Where's he gone? And I looked round, and he was just sat cool as a cucumber, sat on a log, talking with a pigeon. Like just mimicking. He was non-verbal at the time, and just mimicking this pigeon for what seemed like ages. It was probably just a couple of minutes in reality. And I just thought, wow, this is powerful stuff, you know. And we started to go out as a family into the woods, and it kind of grew from there. That kind of grew my curiosity. Actually, it gave me quite a sort of childlike curiosity when I was in the woods. Oh, what's this? What's that? Oh, you know, what's this leaf? And actually, of course, you know, after a few years, as he was developing, he'd say, oh, what's this? He was like, I don't know, let's find out, you know. Or, and so that was that, really.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously he's gone away and sat quietly, and nature's come to him.
Yeah.
And he's obviously mimicking the wood pigeon. And, you know, we're sat in a different part of our woodlands today, and there's, I don't know whether you can hear them or see them flying past, but there's birds everywhere. So we've sat in an area, okay, we're talking, but we're being relatively calm. And it's all, they're all just flooding in, aren't they? It's actually pretty noisy in this woods.
You know what? Everyone talks about the calm of nature. Woodlands are really, really noisy places. It's just a different rhythm. It's just a different sound. But yeah, that was my kind of initial experience of being a carer. I think as we've gone on, self-care has become really important for me to make sure that. Again, I'm not sort of falling into that burnout, and actually it's been great because we've really been able to kind of reframe it with Patrick. You know, I mean, it was great seeing him go around the park a few years ago, asking all the kids if they were autistic, and if they said no, he said, oh, that's a shame, and just walks off. You know, he sees it as a superpower, and you know what, I see it as a superpower too. You know, he's actually taught me a lot. But yeah, it's I think for one thing, I guess, to leave on it is that I've been very careful not for the parent-carer thing to consume my identity. And I've seen that sometimes where people actually really latch on to onto that.
It's a label again, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
Another
label, you know.
yeah.
I mean, you know, Patrick's still Patrick. I'm still me. Again, having the label of a parent carer means that me and my wife can get the support to mean that we can be the best that we can be for him, and that he's got opportunities in an environment that suits him, you know.
So I think to end it there, then obviously it's been a relatively positive journey, hasn't it? Obviously, as the years have progressed and things, and you know, he's a cool guy. He's a very cool guy.
Obviously, I'm biased, but he's a
very tall, cool guy. And what would be, if anybody's just starting out their journey now? So obviously you mentioned those couple of charities before. What you mentioned those again? Yeah. For anybody who's watching, who might be local, who's starting their journey and needs some support.
Yeah. So this is in the Flintshire area. Again, there will be other things in pretty much wherever you are. I think if you speak to the Autistic Society, they'll be able to signpost you to the local equivalents. But we have New Kiss, who do all sorts of fantastic work. They for parent carers, young carers, and cared fors. There's also an organisation called Daffodils. Now I don't think they have a website, but if you go onto Facebook or just search online, you'll probably be able to find them. So Daffodils is, again, it's a community where it's for the carer and the cared for equally. So it's basically almost just, I think their vibe is kind of creating a safe place where you can try stuff and be in a supported way, rather than here's the support for the carer, here's the support for the cared for. It's kind of merging together, and I'm not sure how it works, but it really does work, you know.
And then I suppose to end then, and we also have our dads and older kids session. So if you've got sort of kids with additional needs between 11 and 17, you want to come along to, it doesn't have to be dads, it can be, you know, a carer, uncle, granddad. That's another way to come along, try some archery and crossbow and connect with us,
Yeah, absolutely.
We have got the experience within the team, within the tribe, as a community. So I think we'll leave it there.
I'd just say take it slow. You know, if you asked me what that bit of advice for anyone who's just started out, it's just slowly sinking in. I guess all I'd end on is take it slow. You don't need to have all the answers straight away. In fact, you don't even need to have all the answers at all. Just be kind to yourself, and actually that will mean that you can, in my experience, can care much better. So.
Brilliant. Well, saved by the bell, I think. The woodpecker off in the background.
The woodpecker is going for it. Yep.
Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next time.
See you now.